The following is brought to you by Bleacher Report. If you guys want to check out my live post-game reaction show, make sure to have the Bleacher Report app downloaded and ready to fire up right after the game. You'll find me in the Chargers section. Bolt up. Yo to Bolt fam, it's the director. Chargers fans, here we go again, dude. I don't know what to say. This is tough, you know. I'm sure, like a lot of you guys, I bleed outer blue. And the excitement we felt at the top of the season going 3-0 inside the division, which was especially crazy, feels like it absolutely has come to a screeching halt. And in ways that I feel were preventable, which is probably the thing that stings the most, and we're going to talk about that, dude. What the team failed us in terms of roster construction before the first snap of the regular season even took place. But more so, I think this game was very representative of our roller coaster of emotions in what would look like, hey, we're about to turn this thing around. We made that big play. We scored that big touchdown. And it would get called back. And it would get overturned. And the momentum would swing again. And just when you think you're about to get out the other end, it disaster strikes again. And this is something that Chargers fans I know are very familiar with. We understand this. We've seen this year after year. I just quite wasn't as prepared to deal with it this year to this level. Now, of course, we did believe that there was a chance we lose this game. Washington is very good. They were getting Jaden Daniels back. Didn't expect to lose it this dramatically. Didn't expect to lose it this one-sidedly. It just didn't feel like the Chargers ever had a chance in this game outside of the first quarter or so. And a lot of people are going to point at one specific moment in this game and say, this is the person that ruined the game, and this is the person that deserves all the blame, and that's Quentin Johnston, who on a pretty big tackle fumbled the football, and after that, everything seemed to go wrong. Now, first off, I'm going to tell you, either you're on the QJ train or you're off. Okay? There's going to be some bad days. And QJ, up until this point, was one of the very best wide receivers in the league. If this was enough for you, then I get it. Me, however, immediately once that play happened, I thought to myself, yeah, QJ could have done a little more to protect the football, but the defender just made a really good play. He got his helmet underneath underneath QJ's grip, and he was cradling it, and he was holding it proper, but not much you can do when the guy is flying at you and tackles you at just the right angle to get that thing to pop out of there. And to me, it is what it is. You got to give credit to good defensive plays when they happen, and that was kind of what I was thinking. No, instead for me, the moment that I think this game went wrong wasn't in this game at all. It was last week. I think this team has not gotten right and has been nosediving since Joe Alt would exit with an injury versus the Giants in week 4. That is when I think this nosedive began. That is the moment I think the 3-0 Chargers died, and now we're seeing whatever version of them we're seeing today. That is the thing that I think has turned this season on its head. Now, I'll give the Chargers a break on some level in saying nobody could have predicted that both of your all-pro caliber tackles would go down by week 4. That is something that you can never predict. Sure, you can prepare for it to some degree, but it's not something even close to common enough that you're, throwing all kinds of resources at just in case if it happens, right? Where the Chargers do deserve a lot of blame, however, and something that I know the fans were very vocal about in the offseason, is not preparing ahead of time along the rest of the offensive line. I think a lot of Chargers fans were very offended when we saw Bradley Bozeman was going to be the starting center for this team at the start of the season. A lot of us knew what was going to happen if that decision held strong. And I got really excited at one point when we signed Andre James, thinking, well, it couldn't be much worse than Bradley Bozeman. And here we are today. Some of the worst plays I saw today were as a result of very, very poor blocking from Bradley Bozeman. Now, I get it. It's hard. He might be a leader in that locker room. He might be a very intelligent football player in terms of his ability to convey, assignments to the offensive line and his ability to communicate with Justin Herbert. There may be something there. But in terms of a football player whose job it is to protect Justin Herbert, there are very few players in the entire league who could do it worse than Bradley Bozeman. Last I checked, he was the worst center in the league, and this was ranked not just against starting centers, but very many backup centers. And that is something the Chargers deserve 100% of the blame for. And this is along the topic of what I am going to consider the biggest blunder of the offseason, and now what is becoming a crime every week that goes by, where it continues to be an issue that goes unaddressed, not even attempting to address it, is the lack of protection for Justin Herbert. In the offseason, again, we were all pounding the table, hoping for some movement on the offensive line. A lot of us last season, not in the 24 draft, but in the 23 draft, were really pushing for some center help. That never came. We signed Mekhi Becton, which is cool, but we knew when we signed him that he was probably going to be in and out of the lineup a lot. I don't know how much help we were really expecting to see from that in the long term. We knew Zion Johnson was struggling. No moves were made. Now you don't have your starting left tackle. You don't have your starting right tackle. And the interior is just as bad as it was before, if not worse, because now they don't have any help on the outside. At this point, we lost this game last week when Joe Alt went down. We lost it again on Monday of that week when we didn't make any signings to help our situation. I know we brought in Foster, Sorrell, these guys that are meant to be deep backups. But really, at the end of the day, did we really expect that to move the needle? No. I'm of the opinion right now as a Chargers fan that I don't have all the answers. These guys in the NFL get paid millions of dollars because they know what to do. They know better than I do. This is their bread and butter. This is their 9 to 5. This is their comeuppance. They have lived and breathed football longer than I've been alive. So I don't like taking this statement lightly when the words come out of my mouth that I'm going to demand as a fan that something happen on that offensive line tomorrow, today. Because 2 weeks in a row, I watched my franchise quarterback, my quarterback getting paid tens of millions of dollars a season, get absolutely crushed in this game. And this was after watching him get absolutely crushed in last week's game, too. And yet we did not do anything about it. We did not make any signings. We did not look at any trades. And what's crazy is that this window that we're in is something that we can figure out until Joe Alt returns. There's a good chance that Joe Alt's coming back, y'all. He wasn't placed on IR over the course of this week. That tells me that the team expects him to return, hopefully, some point, between 1 and 4 weeks. That's usually, if you're going to be on IR, that's how much time you're going to miss. But at some point, Joe Alt's going to come back, and hopefully this offense will find its footing again. But the window that we're in right now, we're about to play the Dolphins and the Colts and the Vikings and the Titans. These are all very winnable games. And to not do anything to protect Justin Herbert to give us a chance to win these games is a crime. To not do anything to help Justin Herbert after we get Joe Alt back, this time in the interior, is a crime. I got a couple of guys that I'm very high on that I've mentioned in previous videos and shorts that I think are very, very good moves that I would make tomorrow. And again, I'm no GM. I'm just a fan. I have a platform, sure. Some people like to point that out. But at the end of the day, my opinion doesn't matter. But yet I feel like these moves would be so helpful to the team's situation today and going forward. There's a man by the name of Jack Driscoll, who played backup guard and tackle for the Philadelphia Eagles last season. He got over 100 snaps and graded well into the 70s in pass blocking and looked really good in run blocking as well. He would be given a handful of snaps at guard and at right tackle, and he looked really good. He had one season in his 4 years with the Eagles that looked kind of meh, but for the most part, he has been a very solid backup guard tackle for the Eagles in his career. Looks pretty good to me. That is a guy that I would sign tomorrow, right away. The other guy's name is Nick Gates, who played center for the Washington Commanders for the longest time. He graded out pretty good at center. The last season or two, he's been a backup for the Philadelphia Eagles at center and guard, mind you. He has played a good amount of guard. I think in 2023, he played a majority of the season at left guard. Keep that in mind. Driscoll plays primarily right guard and right tackle, and Gates plays primarily center and left guard. He has graded out very well as a pass blocker as well. And what's crazy is that if you take their grades and compare them to Bozeman for the last 2 seasons, or now our starting right tackle in Austin Deculus for the first 2 games that he started, it is a dramatic improvement. So not only are you looking at guys that may potentially offer very solid depth, but they could legitimately compete to start next week even. I know it's tough. Offensive line is such a difficult position to get prepared and build chemistry and get everybody on the same page. I understand the ups and downs of the position, but really, how much worse could it get? I'm waiting for the grades to come out this week so I could plaster them all over social media and say, hey, we have got to get something done on this line. We have got to do this yesterday. Because the fact of the matter is, as much as people will push back on this or that being the reason for the Chargers, lack of success the last 2 weeks, my eyeballs are the ones I trust the most. And my eyeballs tell me that the Chargers offense, although not great, was certainly not this terrible when we had Joe Alt on the field. When we had Herbert somewhat protected on his blind side. A lot of this fell apart after Joe Alt would go down with injury. And I think it's the team's obligation to do everything in their power to stop this from happening next week. And everything in their power, to me, includes signing depth right away. The guys we have now, I have no idea if they would look even close to as bad as what we're seeing now, but I don't have much faith in it. I think it's their obligation to pursue trades as well. I know some people are up and down on the ideas, Because you're talking about trading and acquiring guys like Evan Neal, who is more or less a project. I mean, how much worse could it get at this point? There was a name that was thrown out in my stream. I was asking everybody, like, if we're trading for somebody, we know we're targeting teams that suck right now. We know we're looking at Giants and Saints and etc. Who are we looking for? One name that I really liked was Trevor Penning. Trevor Penning is a solid, maybe improvement, but for the most part, it follows the formula of what the Chargers have been able to accomplish so far in the Jim Harbaugh era, and that is taking players that have more or less disappointed, especially first-round players, and helping them find new life. Penning, to me, is one of those guys. I'm actually taking a look at some of his grades right now. In 25, he has taken 67 offensive snaps. He's graded at 69.5 pass blocking. Sure, his career has been very mid, especially considering he was your first round, tackle. He's a guy I think we could pry away. What was the other Saint that we were talking about? Dylan Raduns, I think is how you pronounce it. I thought he was an interior guy. Let me take a look at some of his snaps here real quick. And I apologize, I can't show it on the screen. But yes, he is a guard. And again, he's taken a handful of snaps this year. 72. Again, it's more or less disappointing for where you drafted him. He's another guy I would look at from a team that has one win on the season. Definitely in a rebuild kind of situation. And would appreciate the picks if the compensation were to make sense. I'm at the point where I'm like, any compensation makes sense. Make not making moves make sense. Because if we go into this game this upcoming week versus the Dolphins, which by all means should be a very winnable game for us, and we have made no moves, and the team looks just as bad, then we've been failed as fans. They have failed Herbert. They failed Harbaugh. Everybody's been failed. One of the biggest things that you're seeing come out of this as well, this makeshift offensive line, guys don't know what they're doing. They're getting blown up, is the insane amount of penalties that are being tossed in the direction of the Chargers every single week. I wonder if I've got the stat right here. Hang on. Last week, I can tell you, the Chargers got penalized, I think, 14 times for over 100 yards. It was absolutely dreadful. This week, the Chargers would get penalized, still in the double digits, 10 times for 85 yards. But let me tell you some of the situations this would happen in. The Chargers would get a huge stop at the bottom of the first half, force a punt with a couple of minutes just about left on the clock, and a roughing the kicker would call back a Ladd McConkey return for a touchdown. Ladd McConkey almost scored 2 touchdowns today, and one of them got wiped away because of penalties. The offensive line would get penalized up the wazoo. There were several instances, so I think in back-to-back plays, actually, at one point, where the Chargers were looking at a 2nd and forever. It was like 2nd and 25. And he hits Ladd McConkey, and we got ourselves a first down. Maybe it was QJ. I don't remember. Well, guess what? Holding, I think it was Trey Pipkins. That's getting called back. All right, well, again, the very next play, he hits Keenan Allen this time, and it's another first down. Chargers aren't going anywhere. They're going backwards. Another penalty, Trey Pipkins. And this would happen over and over and over and over again today. Every single time you felt the Chargers were finally turning the game around for themselves, Penalties would rip that hope away, shred it in front of you, make you watch, and toss it into the wind. Penalties destroyed every opportunity the Chargers had to win in this game and in last week's game. And you know what? I'm pretty convinced a lot of that has to do with lack of discipline along the offensive line. Sure, there were some penalties on defense, but for the most part, the penalties would be found on offense. And I'm going to bet you if you take a look at the individual penalties committed in this game, majority of them are going to come from the offensive line specifically. And at that point, you got to watch Justin Herbert, who just stood tall in the pocket and took a big hit to deliver this ball to Keenan Allen. You got to watch him stand up and say, you got to do it again, big guy. That doesn't count. You got to watch him get up, bloody elbows, after picking up a 50-yard run on an individual effort and say, sorry, guy, we're going backwards on penalties. How infuriating and how disappointing that must be for the playmakers on this team who have continued to show that they are some of the best at their positions, quarterback in Justin Herbert, running back in Amari Hampton, wide receiver in Keenan Allen, that their efforts, for the most part, don't matter because penalties are going to ensure that it amounts to nothing. Pisses me off, truly. For me as a Chargers fan, I'm going to tell you, I'm a little pissed off, pessimistic, upset that this team did nothing to help Justin Herbert in this window where they're waiting for Joe Alt. I'm going to be demanding change. I'm going to be demanding help for him. I'm going to be demanding, if there's nothing done, that Trey Lance maybe starts for the next few weeks. Because you've got such an incredible special talent in Justin Herbert that you are letting down week after week by sitting on your hands and letting him get murdered behind that line that is literally sending you backwards every play. That's it. That's all I got for you guys today. I'm pissed. I'm ticked. I need change from this team tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm bright and early. 7 a.m., 8 a.m. I want to see a signing from this team. Do I expect to happen? Probably not. But that's my demands as a fan. Do everything in your power to protect number 10. Because if we lose him, if we see him get Joe Burrowed because of the actions that were not taken or even attempted, I am going to be very upset at this team going forward. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. Sorry for the intense conversation. I love my Chargers. I love my Chargers football. I love Justin Herbert. I love Jim Harbaugh. I love Keenan Allen, who caught his 1,000th catch today. No one's going to care or remember because of how terrible this game is. That's a shame. We're not going to forget, chat. You guys spread the word. Help Keenan Allen feel the love. I love this team tremendously. And to watch something like that, at some point I'm going to draw a line. I'm never going to stop bleeding powder blue. I will always be a Chargers fan till the day I die. But I can't sit back and say nothing when I'm watching such negligent football unfold in front of me. But again, who am I? I'm just some guy on the internet. We'll see what happens tomorrow. But guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. If you like what you saw here, hit us up with a follow here on Bleacher Report. We'll catch you next time. As always, bolt up. Stay frosty.